Hello all. Let's just give one more minute. I know it's been a pretty busy day at TestMu. We have lots of sessions, so let's give one more minute for everyone to join, and then we can start. Okay. Super impressive. I see lots of people have already joined in. Sri Harsha, you're on. You're on there, and I believe we should start. Cool. Good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Subhash Kotra. I'm the host for this session, and I work for a UK fintech called Tide Platform Technology and Servicing Private Limited from Hyderabad, India. And I have about close to 2 decades of testing experience. But that's not what we are here for. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, who is going to talk about WebDriver BiDi Revolutionizing Cross-Browser Automation. The talk will show a smart way to fix two strong tools, WebDriver Classic and the Chrome DevTools protocol. This tool makes communication go two ways, which makes things faster and more precise. Isn't it sounding interesting already? The outcome obviously is super impressive, a fresh standard that might change how we do browser automation today. Our speaker, Sri Harsha, is very experienced in software and knows a lot about testing. He's really good at using Selenium. I shouldn't say just using, he's a contributor to Selenium as well. He likes to contribute to all sort of open source tools, and as he should be, he is very proud of the ways he is helping the testing community. So I believe you are all set, and to take that first sip of the cocktail of mixing of two classic and strong tools. But before we go there, just a few suggestions for all of our attendees. Please do show your love for the topic by using emojis, which you can find on your screen. At the end of the session, we would be taking few questions, and feel free to add them on your Q&A section, which you can see on your left of your chat window, which I believe is already active. And as we all know, we may not be able to take all the questions, but do not worry. We have a Lambda test community thread also going on where we would be posting the answers to these questions. So without much delay, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Sri Harsha. Over to you.
Thank you, Subhash. Thank you for the introduction. Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the TestMu Conference. So, before I commence, I would like to thank Lambda Test for giving me this opportunity and also providing me the platform to address you all. So, additionally, I would like to also thank Selenium TLC and the PLC teams and also the committers, so who has done their valuable contributions in the testing community. So, for the people who don't know me, my name is Sri Harsha. I'm currently working as Senior Test Automation Engineer here at EPAM Systems India. And I'm also an open source enthusiast, so I love contributing to the open source projects. So I actively contribute for the projects like Selenium and WebDriverIO. So without no delay, let me introduce you to the WebDriver BiDi. So WebDriver BiDi is a new cross-browser automation protocol. It's a bidirectional protocol for the browser automation. So WebDriver BiDi is a new protocol that serves as an extension for the WebDriver Classic. So in this talk, what we'll do, we'll explore the reasons behind the introduction of the WebDriver BiDi. So why it is introduced, and what are the limitations with the WebDriver Classic, and what are the limitations with the CDP protocol we'll able to see. And also we'll also see how we can use WebDriver BiDi with the automation tools like Selenium and WebdriverIO. Yeah, like coming to the agenda. So firstly, we'll discuss about the evolution of WebDriver Classic. And later we will also differentiate between the WebDriver Classic and the CDP. So in order to understand WebDriver BiDi, these two are most important, because once you get the clear understanding with the limitations and the differences, then we'll go with the WebDriver BiDi introduction. And later we'll go with the advantages of the WebDriver BiDi, because it is a new protocol. It has to be there has to be some advantages with it, right? And later we'll go with the current BiDi state. So how far it is implemented, because WebDriver BiDi is not available in all test automation tools. It is still under development. And also we can see how we can implement with Selenium and WebDriverIO, because WebDriver BiDi, few parts of the WebDriver BiDi is already implemented and already available in the browser vendors. So yeah. So coming to the WebDriver Classic, I can say birth of test automation actually started with the Selenium RC. With the Selenium RC, we have started automating the browser, right? So Selenium RC was introduced in the 2004, and it was the most widely and popular, widely used automation tool in that year. And later, with the introduction of the WebDriver BiDi, it has become more popular because, sorry, with the introduction of WebDriver, I can say, because WebDriver was more popular as it was directly communicating with the browser using the browser API or the JSON web protocol. So in the year of 2009, what happened is Selenium RC and the WebDriver both got merged, and they became a single house power automation tool called Selenium WebDriver. And Selenium WebDriver was more popular, and in the year of 2018 it has become the browser standard. That means all browser vendors are using the WebDriver WebDriver protocol to automate their test cases, that's why there is a Chrome driver and Gecko driver and browser drivers follow the WebDriver standard now. So even Selenium follows the WebDriver standard now. So there are a lot of tools in the market actually, but we will see now what are the automation tools in the market that actually uses WebDriver Classic. So first one is the popular tool Selenium WebDriver. So Selenium WebDriver is a pure implementation of the WebDriver Classic. And the another tool is WebDriverIO. So WebDriverIO is also another tool which is written in JavaScript/TypeScript. So that also uses WebDriver Classic API to automate the browser. And the third tool is the EPAM. So you all know EPAM is the popular tool to automate mobile devices, and it also follows the WebDriver Classic API. And the Nightwatch. So Nightwatch.js is also it is built on top of Selenium only, but it is also most popular tool that uses WebDriver Classic. So these are the high-level 4 automation tools in the market that uses WebDriver Classic in the behind, or WebDriver API in the behind. So WebDriver is not only the protocol that is used for the browser automation, right? Because as the web development evolved from time to time, what happened is there was a demand to write test cases in JavaScript. So that comes with there are another 2 new protocols that we can use to automate the browser. First one is the Web API, and second one is the CDP. So now we'll discuss the tools that actually uses Web API for the automation purpose, that is Cypress. So you all know Cypress is the popular tool in the market. So Cypress uses Web API directly, it injects JavaScript into the browser directly in the browser console, right? So for example, let me take a simple button in here, a click me button. So let me show you how actually Selenium tries to click on and how Cypress tries to click on, and how we can simulate the click event using Web API. So if you ask me, Selenium, what it does is, when you try to perform a click operation using Selenium, first Selenium hovers the mouse pointer onto the button. That means it moves the mouse pointer, and it simulates the commands called mouse pressed and mouse clicked. So it is the high level commands that Selenium or WebDriver API uses. So first it moves the mouse pointer and simulates the click event, but that is not the same thing that Cypress does. Cypress does in a different way. So for example, if you go to the DevTools console, you can use the Web API to simulate the click action in here. So there is a bit difference, how Selenium simulates the click action and how Web API simulates the click action in here. So Cypress is the one tool that uses Web API to automate the browser. So there is also one more protocol called CDP. So CDP stands for Chrome DevTools. So the another tool that uses CDP is Puppeteer. So Puppeteer is the main tool that uses pure CDP in the backend, and CDP stands for Chrome DevTools protocol. That means it only works for the Chromium-based browsers. And again, we will take one click me button in here. We'll try to do the same click action or simulate the click action using the CDP. So now you know how Selenium does the click action. It moves the mouse pointer and clicks it, and Web API has its own way. But coming to the CDP, there is a CDP commands executes in the backend. So first command is it actually searches for the element using the query. And second, once the element is found out, it stores in the search ID. And third, it dispatches the mouse event called mouse pressed, and again once it is pressed, it dispatches the another event called mouse release. So these are the exact commands that CDP executes in the backend. Okay, so this is how actually CDP automation tools perform click action on a button. So now we have to see, there are a lot of tools, three different protocols, WebDriver and Web API and CDP, and these three different tools works in a different way in their implementation. Okay, so now what we'll do is now move aside with the keep aside the Web API. We'll now differentiate with the classic WebDriver and the CDP. So first one is classic WebDriver is a standard protocol. That means it is the W3C protocol that is implemented by the all browser vendors. And coming to the CDP, it only supports in the Chromium-based browsers. Okay. And second thing is WebDriver Classic actually communicates via HTTP requests. So there are a few limitations with the HTTP request. We'll come again on that. But WebDriver Classic, as you all know, Selenium actually communicates via HTTP. But CDP in another way, it communicates via WebSocket. So there are a lot of advantages communicating via WebSocket, and CDP does that. And Selenium actually, classic WebDriver does not support low-level controls. So low-level controls are nothing but access to the DevTools, browser DevTools, or JS errors or console logs in the DevTools, network events in the DevTools. But if you see the CDP actually designed to access DevTools protocol. It supports all the low-level controls of the browser. But coming to the limitations, so what are the actual limitations with the WebDriver Classic? First one is it is the synchronous in nature. So if you see the Selenium WebDriver commands are generally synchronous, and that means they actually wait for response before proceeding with the next command. This is why Selenium is a bit slow, because it needs to wait until the response to hear the response from the browser, because it is unidirectional and kind of. And second thing is it has limited low-level DevTools controls. So Selenium WebDriver Classic is only designed to automate the web UI, but it does not have access to the DevTools. This is the most requested feature from most of the people. But yeah, we are coming to that. So the third limitation with the WebDriver Classic is the unidirectional. So as I said, WebDriver is a bit slow because of its unidirectional. It is not bidirectional. Unidirectional, what happens is, for example, if you have an element in the page, and if you want to check if that element is visible or it is clickable, what you need to do is you actually poll for that element multiple times. So as it is unidirectional, for every few seconds you'll be polling for that availability of the element. So for every request it takes time. So this is where actually Selenium WebDriver is a bit slow. Now coming to the limitations of the CDP. So now we have seen the WebDriver Classic limitations, and now with the CDP limitations. First one is the browser compatibility. So if you clearly see, CDP stands for Chrome DevTools Protocol. So it is only strictly works for it purely works for the Chromium-based browsers. So you can ask it also supports for Firefox or other DevTools. Yes, it supports, but not completely. But it is fully supported for the Chromium-based browsers, but partially supported, I can say, for the other browsers. And second thing is version dependency. So this is the main problem with the CDP. So for every Chrome release, there will be CDP release, and for different CDP releases, there will be few methods deprecated or few features will be modified. So this affects the backward compatibility. So this is the same thing we have done in the Selenium. Selenium also, Selenium allows you to execute the CDP commands, and you need to pin the CDP version or the browser version before, if you want to use the CDP commands. So these are the limitations with the Selenium WebDriver and also with the CDP. So to overcome these limitations, actually, there is a new protocol introduced that is called a WebDriver BiDi. So WebDriver BiDi actually is a combination of two things, a WebDriver Classic and the CDP, the power of WebDriver Classic and the CDP. So as it is a new protocol, you can ask, is it different from the WebDriver Classic and CDP? No. WebDriver BiDi is implemented on top of WebDriver Classic only. So based on how you want to use it in the code, you can actually start the WebDriver BiDi connection, or you can close the WebDriver BiDi connection. So with the new protocol, actually there will be few advantages. So we'll see the advantages of the WebDriver BiDi. So first one is the fast and bidirectional communication. So now you can see this is the limitation with the WebDriver Classic. So WebDriver Classic is unidirectional. Now WebDriver BiDi will be the bidirectional communication. So with the bidirectional communication, you can actually know what is happening at the browser end. So if something happens at the browser end, WebDriver BiDi can inform you, or it can send you the real-time updates. So you can use that real-time updates to debug your test cases or debug your application. And second thing is WebDriver BiDi provides you access to the low-level control. So it is also like, it was a limitation with the WebDriver Classic. WebDriver Classic does not have access to the low-level controls. Now WebDriver BiDi, with the WebDriver BiDi, now we can have the power of CDP using within the WebDriver, right? So now you can test the browser UI, and also you can get the information from the dev tools. How cool is it? So third one is the cross-browser support. So this is the limitations from the CDP, you can see. So CDP stands for Chrome Native Protocol. It is only purely supported for the Chromium-based browsers. Now WebDriver BiDi is a WCC specification. That means all browser vendors are actually implementing the WebDriver BiDi. So it will be the same as the WebDriver protocol. So once you write the test cases in for one browser, it will be the same thing or the same behavior in the other browser too. And so we are discussing about the low-level controls, right? So what are the actual low-level controls that WebDriver BiDi provides to you? First one is the listening to the JS errors. So WebDriver BiDi actually allows you to listen JS errors in the console, or if the application if application has any errors in the console, WebDriver BiDi actually allows you to fetch it, and you can use them for the debugging purpose. And the second thing is listening to the console logs. So WebDriver BiDi enables real-time capturing of the console logs. So if there are any console logs in the DevTools console, you can actually fetch it and use for the debugging. And the third thing is the DOM mutation. DOM mutation is a concept where there will be changes to the DOM tree if there is any event is executed in the DOM. So you can also observe and listen to the DOM mutation with using the WebDriver BiDi. And network interception. So network interception is a concept that allows you to intercept network requests and responses. So you can also modify requests and also mock the requests. So that helps the developers to actually test more on the network actions, but in the dev tools. So WebDriver BiDi actually allows you to do that. So currently, the WebDriver BiDi implementation, listening to the JS errors and listening to the console logs is implemented, and that is also available in the test automation tools in Selenium and WebdriverIO. DOM mutation and the network interception are in progress, and in the future we will be implementing that too. So what is the current implementation status of the WebDriver BiDi? So now this is the real-time update from the web platform test cases. So web platform test cases, what it ensures is once the browser vendors implement a feature, that feature will be having the same behavior in the other browsers too. So once you write a feature, you test it, the browser vendors test it using for the WebDriver BiDi, so that the feature has the same behavior in the other test cases too. So here you can see the modules, browsing context, errors, and input, log, network, and script. So you can see for the network, it is still not yet implemented in the Chromium, and it is available in the Firefox. So there is a difference between for the implementation for the Chromium and other other browser vendors, different browser vendors. But whoever implements it fast, then we can able to test it and we can able to implement it. So this is the real-time update. So red one shows it is not yet implemented, green one shows it is implemented, and yellow one shows it is in progress. Okay, so now how we can use WebDriver BiDi in the Selenium. So currently, if you take this code snippet in Selenium, this is the latest code snippet from the Selenium 4.11. So we have actually allowed you to start the WebDriver BiDi using this capability. The only thing you need to change is you need to just put WebSocket URL to true. So once you do WebSocket URL to true, what happens is there will be a WebSocket connection started in the backend, the BiDi connection. Now with the BiDi connection, now you can actually listen to the logs or listen to JS errors. Here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to start the server with the WebSocket connection to true, and I'm trying to inspect the logs in here, console logs. So and later I'm going to the selenium.dev. This is the URL. This URL actually contains few buttons that actually simulates the errors in JS console logs, JS errors and the console logs. I will show you in the demo. And in the console log, I'm just clicking on the button to simulate the console log. And using the code, we are actually fetching the console log using the WebDriver BiDi. So here console log entry is the instance from the WebDriver BiDi. Okay, so I'll show you it in the live demo, and this is the Selenium example. And coming to the another tool, WebDriverIO also implements WebDriver BiDi. So if you see in here, again, in WebDriverIO, we are actually starting the browser session with WebSocket URL to true. So there is a difference between how you start the session in the Chrome and Firefox. But if you are starting the WebDriver BiDi session in the Chrome, there is a BiDi mapper actually gets started along with your connection. So I'll show you what BiDi mapper has and how we can see the CDP commands and the BiDi commands in there. So this is how you start the instance in WebDriverIO with the WebSocket URL to true. And in the WebDriverIO, you need to actually subscribe with the BiDi commands. So here I'm subscribing to the log events. So the event is log.entry added. This is from the WebDriver BiDi specification. And here I'm executing a sample error, like console.error to simulate an error in the console itself. So as I'm doing with the JavaScript. Now, once the message is logged in the console, now I'm fetching that message and I'm printing it. And now I'm deleting the session. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll actually jump into the demo and show you how it works. So this is the same Selenium code with the latest Selenium 4.11. I'm using it. So this is the same code I have shown you in the PPT. So here what I'm doing is in the line number 17, I'm actually starting the capability like WebSocket URL to true. So once I set this capability, what happens? WebDriver BiDi connection gets started along with the WebDriver connection. Okay. So here I'm setting the Chrome options because I'm using the browser options to set the capability. So here I'm registering for the log event. So this is the same thing in WebDriverIO. There is a browser.session subscribe log event. Here we have made it easier for the Selenium users to make sure that you don't need to actually see the implementation, but you can actually use the class and methods directly to for the WebDriver connection. So here I'm visiting the URL. So I'll just go to the URL and show you how it works. So this is the URL I'm just navigating to. And if I inspect in here, if you see, I'll just move the console for clear picture and close. So if I click on the click me for console logs, what happens? I'll just you can see a console log gets triggered in here, hello world is printed in there. So for the console errors, the same thing. I'm a console error because it will have a bit stack trace in here. So here the JS exception, this is the JS exception in here. And another button for more error, the uncaught exception, the JS exception here. So the same thing we have used for the testing our Selenium implementation. So we can just go and check it. So currently what I'm doing is I'm just clicking on the console log. And once I click on the console log, what happens? I get a message called hello world. So I'm just fetching that message in here. So let me execute this code. And yeah, I'll just simply execute it for you. Yeah. So here you can see hello world is my message that is fetched from the console actually. So what I want to show is I just want to put a sleep in here and run the test case. So here you can see there are two tabs open in here in the Chrome actually. So first one is the second tab is what I have navigated to, but the first one is the BiDi mapper. So this BiDi mapper is an implementation, the Chromium implementation. So you don't see this in the Firefox. So to be clear, so if you start the WebDriver BiDi connection or in the backend, you will see this BiDi mapper. Okay, this BiDi mapper will have all the commands that you have executed using the WebDriver BiDi. So WebDriver BiDi commands are translated into the CDP, and that CDP commands are executed in the browser. So when you start the WebDriver BiDi, there will be a BiDi mapper between your Chromium driver and the Chrome browser. Okay, but if you make I'll just show you again. So this is the URL that I'm navigated to. So there are a couple of things. If you close this BiDi mapper or if you refresh this BiDi mapper, your BiDi instance will get closed. So you should not do that. Okay. So I will show you if WebSocket is false and how it is behaving now. So when the WebSocket URL is false, what happens is now we are only using the WebDriver classic. You can assume, so there is only one URL, like it is open, right? So using the WebSocket WebDriver classic is when you say WebSocket URL to false, then it actually acts as a WebDriver classic. So no BiDi instance gets instantiated in the backend. So you'll see, of course, you'll see errors because we are trying to simulate with the WebDriver BiDi command, send the WebDriver BiDi commands in here. So this is one example with the Selenium. And now we'll see the example with WebdriverIO. Yeah. So this is the same code that I've used in here. But in here, what we'll do is first we'll actually listen to the JS exceptions, like in JS errors. So here in the line number 5, I'm setting the capability call WebSocket URL to true. And in the line number 10, here I'm actually subscribing for the session. So here the same thing, log.entry added. And here going to the same thing, WebDriver BiDi JS exception. Click me for the JS exception, right? JS exception, and I just want to capture this JS exception. So now we'll see, I'll just execute the code. Now you can see how the response is captured from the Selenium and how the response is captured from the WebDriver IO. So WebDriver IO actually gives the complete JSON response from the WebDriver BiDi, but in the Selenium, what we have done is to make it easier, we are actually providing you the required information to you. So you can see only hello world or the correct error. In the WebDriver IO, it gives the complete JSON response, the realms or the browser tab and everything. So now I'll show you. So it is still downloading the firmware because of the CFT feature. Yeah. So here is my response from the WebDriver BiDi. You can see now it is giving the complete JSON information here, like log.entry added, the params, the level is error, the source, the context, realm. So if you see the correct, if you want the error in here, you can see this is the error text, error not working. Okay, so it also gives a timestamp and type, what type of error it is, it is a JavaScript error. Okay, so every information you can get from the WebDriver BiDi response, but this is only in the WebDriver IO for the people who are using WebDriver IO. So for the people who are using Selenium, it may not give you complete information, but just on the required information, right? So we're actually fetching the text from the console and just printing it. Even for the error and start trace, it is also the same. It is. So WebDriver BiDi is actually available in the Chromium and 𝐀𝐿 driver, I can say. So they have already implemented these features, and Selenium already has these features implemented. So if anyone wants to use the WebDriver BiDi feature to inspect the logs or to listen to the JS service, you can start using it. And WebDriver IO also has this feature implemented, and there is a clear documentation for the WebDriver IO, how you can use the WebDriver BiDi and everything. For the, it also supports in browsing context and everything. So coming back to the presentation. So this is WebDriver BiDi for you. Because it is a combination of WebDriver Classic and WebDriver CDP. So you can have the power of both tools in one protocol, that is the WebDriver BiDi. So you can also have the references in here. So WebDriver BiDi is in implementation stage. It is still under development. That's why it is not completely available in all the test automation tools. So for now, it is there are a few parts of the WebDriver BiDi is already available and ready to use. So you can see the specification in the WebDriver BiDi .c document. So you can go to all the specification and all the commands in here. Okay. Yeah. So if you want to go with if you want to see how Chrome Dev Tools or the CDP commands, there is a clear documentation for the CDP tools too. So these are all the domains that have shown you the DOM domain that used for press and release mouse event. So these are all the domains that CDP uses to operate to do the actions in the browser. So basically CDP is an interface that allows developers to control over the browser using programmatically. These are the commands, actually domains and the methods available. So if I go with the one domain, it will have a lot of methods. Using these methods, we can actually operate execute the CDP commands. Okay. So if you want the Selenium documentation, we have the Selenium documentation for the BiDi. It is under development, and we are actually providing the code samples for you that you can execute or you can ready to use. Okay, for the WebDriverIO documentation, there is a clear documentation. Now you can see on the right side session.subscribe and section.unsubscribe session and everything. So using these commands, these are the clear WebDriver BiDi protocol commands that WebDriverIO supports. You can use them directly using the WebDriverIO latest. Okay, so this is WebDriver BiDi for you, the featured browser, cross-browser automation protocol, the featured browser automation protocol. So using this WebDriver BiDi, now you will be having the power of WebDriver Classic and also the power of CDP in the backend. So questions time.
Thank you so much, Harsha. This was definitely completely insightful, and I hope it's the same feeling for everyone else. Just like any cocktail, it took us high for sure for me. So let's now, get into the questions. But
Yeah.
as I said earlier, we will be able to take only few questions. There were a lot of questions here. Few are upvoted also. I'll take from the upvoted questions, and the others you can find them on the Lambda test community, where it will all be answered. And the first question is coming up. I believe a lot of people are asking about this. Are we going to see WebDriver BiDi in mobile app automation as well?
So with Selenium, I'm not sure, but with WebDriver, we can mock few things and we can make it work, because WebDriver is also a tool that is used with integrated with the APM and we can execute. But for the mobile testing, if I say for the inbuilt apps, that is not possible. For the web apps, we can try it out.
Great, thank you. Hope that answers Jeremy. I'll move to the next one on the, yeah. Will there be any possibilities where we can integrate cross-browser testing with desktop application?
So the main goal of WebDriver BiDi is to provide DevTools access to the WebDriver Classic. So I don't see this is for desktop application anyway. This is only for to provide the power of DevTools to the current WebDriver Classic. So no, we are not that too yet for the desktop application.
Thank you. Okay, the next on the upvotes. What are the strategies that can be employed to address the challenges of implementing WebDriver BiDi?
So WebDriver BiDi is currently in the implementation stage. How we are working with the browser vendors to make it implemented within the browser automation tools. So there are a couple of members in the team, in the TLC team, who are constantly working to implement WebDriver BiDi. So yep, there are few challenges in it, but because from time to time things changes, a few things get deprecated until that gets finalized. Yep, but in the future, we will implement it for sure.
Cool. Thanks, Harsha. Okay, it's about AI everywhere. I'm not able to present that question here, but yeah, there's a question here which says how AI helps in cross-browser testing, if that's anywhere related to your talk.
Okay, so how AI relates to cross-browser testing? So I cannot answer that precisely. I have never used AI for the testing purpose. Maybe that's not my era.
No problem. I'll not put you on the spot. There are
Okay.
few there are few questions with respect to comparisons of Cypress and others, as
Mhm.
always, with Selenium and BiDi. As I understand, the BiDi is a direction to match the capabilities of Cypress. Does this have potential to match all the capabilities of Cypress?
So Cypress is a different tool that uses Web API actually, that does not use CDP protocol or the WebDriver Classic. So Web API in the sense that uses pure Node.js JavaScript API to execute commands, but there are few limitations with the Cypress tool because handling with the frames or kind of thing, handling with the windows. So it does WebDriver BiDi will have all the capabilities, the standard capabilities that browser automation vendors supports. We have already a lot of capabilities available in the Selenium or the WebDriver Classic, so it does support all the capabilities, I can say.
Cool. The next one is, how do you see BiDi amongst its competitors?
Yeah, BiDi is going to rock the world of the test automation in the future, for sure, I can say, because there is a lot of thing going along with the CDP and the Selenium, because Selenium is already a popular tool, and with the evolution of the CDP, a lot of users have shown the interest in the CDP because it helps the developers and testers to get the information and debug a lot more things in the while testing, right? So with the implementation of the WebDriver BiDi in the classic, now Selenium or whatever the WebDriver BiDi tools implemented, uh, it will be the on the number one for the automation tools.
Awesome. Looking forward for that. Okay. The next is, can you explain more on web platform tests that you
Sure, of
showed?
course. Yeah. Let me go back. So web platform test cases are actually not written by the users, it is written by the browser vendors. So browser vendors, what actually they do is when they implement any feature, for example, if I'm working for the Chrome, if I implement any feature, I write the test case. So if my test case passes in the Edge and Firefox, then I can make sure that my feature is already it's working on other browsers too. So WebDriver BiDi is a cross-browser BiDi, right? Like an automation protocol. So if you're implementing one feature, it should be all it should also support the other browsers and other browsers too. So web platform test cases actually defined like browser vendors actually write the test cases in Python language, I assume. So once the test cases is passed, they can make sure that implementation works in all other browsers too. So here you can see the Chromium test case. Chrome, vendors has written 275 test cases out of 465 with the implementations. Edge 274, Firefox 411, they are ahead, and Safari has not implemented any WebDriver BiDi features. Right, so they develop the feature and also they write the test cases to implement their to test their feature. Right, so this is what web platform test cases actually ensure your feature is your implementation is has the same behavior in all doses.
Great. Hope that answers Avinash. He has lots of questions. Most of them are answered. Thank you, Avinash, for always being on there. Okay. How is it different from Playwright WebSocket?
Okay, so Playwright uses CDP. So Playwright is not CDP is not a standard actually. If you see WebDriver is a W3C standard accepted by all browser vendors, but Playwright uses a CDP protocol that is not a standard. It is from the Chromium based from vendors, right? So we are trying to actually have a standard CDP. You can assume WebDriver BiDi is W3C standard, so accepted by the all browser vendors. So CDP is maintained by only Chrome. So that is the main difference. It is same, but it is a standard now. Playwright is not a standard that uses the CDP.
Cool. Thank you. I still have time for two more questions, probably. Let me bring this. Are there any recommended best practices for incorporating WebDriver BiDi into an organization's broader testing strategy?
So for the first thing, we are actually documenting how we can use the WebDriver BiDi because it is still under implementation. Currently, we don't have any best practices. So what we are actually trying to do is, without minimal changes in the test script, we can actually start the WebDriver BiDi connection and stop the WebDriver BiDi connection. So we are actually making it easier. So there are no best practices currently because we are still implementing in our automation tools.
Great. Thank you. Muskan asks, can you please provide an example related to how BiDi WebDriver can help in handling dynamic content?
So WebDriver BiDi can actually help you to listen to the DOM mutation of DOM events. So that feature is not yet ready from the BiDi team itself. So once that is ready, we will be having an example in the Selenium documentation for sure in the future. But again, only for the JS errors and the listening to the console logs and JS errors are perfectly implemented. And those are ready to use. Those parts are ready to use. But DOM mutation is still under development, and you need to wait for some more time to access that.
Is there any self-healing feature for WebDriver BiDi?
Yeah, so self-healing feature, I don't say that because WebDriver BiDi actually aimed for the bidirectional communication. So you can actually wait until the page is completely loaded. So WebDriver BiDi with the browsing context, there is a module when you navigate to that module, you can just give a parameter like interactive, completed, or none. So when you give none, actually it actually waits until the page is loaded. But I don't see any self-healing feature for now in the WebDriver BiDi. That is not in the context.
Cool. Still have some time. She is answering pretty good. What's in store for WebDriver BiDi? Also, will CDP be ever deprecated once WebDriver BiDi gains more adoption?
So again, WebDriver BiDi is still in implementation. Selenium also supports the CDP, right? So there are a lot of tools that also constructed under the CDP on the top of CDP. So I don't think so CDP will deprecate. So if you see WebDriver BiDi in the larger picture, what happens is WebDriver BiDi actually translates BiDi commands to the CDP. So CDP will never get deprecated, obviously, because BiDi commands will be translated into the CDP in the backend. But if you come to the test automation tools, will Selenium will remove the CDP things? Maybe once WebDriver BiDi is stabilized, we may remove the CDP. That depends
Great,
upon the decision on the TLC and the PLC of Selenium.
great. You have been awesome, Shri Harsha, answering lots of questions and showing all of the demos. Could you just bring out your slide which has your connect request, because I see lots of questions on that as well. People
Okay.
would like to definitely connect with you.
So the thing is, you can use this URL to access the presentation. So this is the URL I can share with you. So connect request, in the sense I can go with the
Connecting with you in future, to be more
yeah.
precise.
So
Yeah,
maybe you can connect me in the GitHub, on the Twitter, and also I'm available in the Selenium Slack mostly, and LinkedIn.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being patient and attending this session. Hope it gives you lots of insights. Please do note that we will be hosting all our recorded sessions on YouTube, so you can go back and listen to them again, and of course, share them with your peers. Happy testing. Have a great day ahead. Bye, all.
Thank you all. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.